Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to episode 16 of IP&O from Home. We're, of course, as always, live from the couch in my room. Today, we have a very special guest, Tara Gyorfy, who is a project manager at Rutgers and also a member of the new FAST team that's going to be rolling out some new changes across Rutgers that we'll talk about. So, Tara, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome, Tara.
Thank you.
So our first question is, can you explain what the FAST program is, how it was developed, and who's on the team?
Sure. The FAST program, which stands for Facilities Assessment Special Teams, was a collaboration that developed by upper management of different departments within IP&O. So you have university architects, facility operations, planning, development, and design, material and logistics services, and the list kind of goes on, came together and tried to develop a way to assess how do we assist all of these different departments across the universities to enable them to come back safely in this time of COVID. What it does is what my role has really been so far has been to be a liaison between all the different team members to make sure that the visual cues are installed in all of the different buildings, which you'll see when you come on campus. There's reminders to wash your hands and wear a mask and to social distance. And there's hand sanitizers at all the entryways and at the elevator banks. And then we have different team members that are reaching out to different department heads that are asking for help and how do we prepare our space for our staff when they come back. So it's really been a collaborative effort to try to reduce anxiety as we return to work in September.
Yeah. So how far along at this point is the FAST program, and ultimately, what do you think the overall impact will be on students and staff and faculty?
Well, in terms of where we are, if you were to go on campus today, you would just see now all of the entryways have signage and designating circulation. You would see again what we're calling the 4 W's, these signs that tell you to wear your mask, watch your distance, be aware of your wellness. And so all of that is already in place everywhere. The area managers and planner estimators and their staff has been amazing. They have just worked really hard to just ensure that all of that signage is up and available. And now we have all these project managers who are normally used to working on renovations. They have been deployed to assist the department heads. So we've been receiving work orders from different department heads for us to go out and meet them and to walk their space and designate how many people can really occupy this office. And do you need some acrylic barriers that, if you have a help desk, maybe you need a barrier to add a little bit more protection between that staff member and the public or each other. So that has been ongoing, and the PMs have just been working tirelessly. As you know, the Rutgers way, what's the timeline? And it's always ASAP. So that's how we've been treating it. Yeah.
So I think you mentioned this a little bit, but if people have special accommodations where they get back to work in September and they feel like something needs to be addressed, do they have the ability to reach out and contact you guys?
The first thing they'll do is they will talk to their department. So if you're an individual staff member and you're feeling uncomfortable, you would talk to your department head, and if they feel like the need is valid, they will call the university call center, who they generate a work order, and that work order is given to a project manager. The project manager then will reach out and will come and visit the space with you. I've been on a lot of walkthroughs where we're walking the entire building and determining like, no, you can only have one person in this 4-person office, or yes, the warehouse has all of these different barriers and this one would work for this space. If maybe someone just needs supplies, in that case, you don't have to call the call center. Instead, you would just go on Marketplace, and the warehouse has created a COVID-1 folder where you can find masks and hand sanitizers and tape and signage and all of that stuff.
Yeah, that's great. So I'm imagining that sort of September is going to sort of be a really big sort of period of adjustment for people. What would you say generally like their expectations should be going back to work in September?
I mean, I think you're going to see staggered schedules in the office. Like we probably won't see each other. Maybe we will. And which is sad because I miss I love the people that sit next to me, but we won't be on that same schedule. There'll be a restriction on events and visitors. And really, I think the big change will be just the reduced occupancy. And as you know, there's a lot of remote delivery of instructions. I think if people are really curious and still anxious, they can always go to the coronavirus page that the university has created. It's a coronavirus.rutgers.edu, and there's a document there called Returning to Rutgers. And it's an organic document, so it's like it keeps getting updated as we find out more information about COVID. But that document really, it really gives people a better idea of what to expect when they come back.
That's great, thank you.
So are a lot of the accommodations been taken on like a case-by-case basis? Because I would imagine in a lot of the buildings there's like different unique seating arrangements and things like that that don't go across the board. You know, speaking for myself in Knightsbridge, John and I sit next to each other, but I haven't seen a setup like we have where it's the 2 cubicles next to each other, but that partition in the middle isn't there. We kind of have like an open space between us.
Mm-hmm.
So
I know it well.
Yeah. So I was.
I know
wondering,
it too well.
You haven't known it in a while, though.
That's true. Yeah.
So I was wondering, like, you know, because as of now, if me and John would go back, it would pretty much be we would need to be sitting not at our desks or
correct.
on, you know, opposite sides. So if there are other people that have desks like us, how would they request to get some sort of partition?
Well, I think what's happening, and you'll probably see something from your supervisor soon asking you, what is the best days for you to work? Because you and John are not going to work on the same days. I think that is like the first step here, is that people who sit next to each other, even if you have a 6-foot barrier, it's not enough. So what the supervisors are being directed to do is to stagger the seating. So some of us will still be working from home on certain days. We're still telecommuting, basically. Like there, in that case, is like that has been the direction. Even with like conference rooms and whatnot, we're limiting occupancy. And yes, there has been, the project managers, we've received like hundreds of work orders because we have all this staff that is just like, how do we do this? So I recently walked DDDC with Laura Bergman, who is one of the university architects, and we walked through the entire building and looked at every office and determined not to put barriers between people and have everyone come back at the same time, but more like, okay, you can fit 2 people here. So now it will be the responsibility of those department heads to decide which people are there at what times.
Yeah. I have to imagine it's difficult too. You know, you can take as many precautions right now as you need to, but considering when this space was acquired and planned for, it was never really, the idea was not to limit the amount of space people have. It was, get as many people as we can into this space to serve the purpose that we need it to. So, now trying to reverse course on that, I'm sure is extremely difficult.
Definitely. I mean, Knightsbridge is a sea of cubicles, you know,
Yeah.
it's just mind blowing. And I think that's what this team is all about. It's to reduce that anxiety for these department heads that have spaces like Knightsbridge to be like, what do we do with this? Because we already have that 6-foot barrier between us, right? But that's not enough. So we're going in and really trying to handhold and help people realize that we still can't go back, even though like some of us, not all of us, are tired of working from home. We're still going to have to do that come September, you know, some of the days. And then others that will be sitting, you and Paul won't be sitting together anymore. You know, you'll be working Monday, you'll be working Tuesday.
You mentioned before that you were getting like hundreds and hundreds of these requests.
Yeah.
How have you guys been like managing that workflow of prioritizing which, project needs to get done first and which ones can sort of wait a little?
We have quite a few project managers on staff that were building buildings or were renovating offices and renovating bathrooms, and that has stopped. So you have these people who are trained in, assessing spaces. We've been disseminating and those work orders among that staff. And in terms of priority, it's coming in like first come, first serve. And we're all working full time and working pretty hard to meet everybody. If you saw us on campus, we're always just running to meet that next person.
Well, thanks, Tara. I think that was a lot of good info that people would definitely be interested in hearing.
Right.
So yeah, thanks for coming on. And if you have any last word to say, we'll give you the floor.
I would just say is to stay safe, everyone, and above all, stay sane.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tara.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, guys.